Thank you. Greetings, everyone. Doug, Bill. Yes, there's a question.
So, what do you think is most exciting in the next 20 years in space exploration?
The most exciting in 20 years.
In the next 20 years.
20 years is right at the limit where there may be going to Mars, right? So, but I hope between now and 20 years we catch up with an asteroid. So, tsunami causes huge trouble in Japan. Earthquakes, I live in California, I have an earthquake every 20 minutes or so. Sometimes earthquakes in the developing world are devastating. These are natural disasters. You can prepare for them, but you can't really do anything about them. But there's another natural disaster we could prevent, and that's the Earth getting hit with an asteroid. Ancient dinosaurs had some trouble with that, and as far as anybody knows, they did not do anything about it. But we could. And so if you, I don't know how much time you spend with this, but you can't really push an asteroid up or down out of the plane, or the main plane, out of the equipment. You have to slow it down or speed it up. And we hope by sending people to an asteroid we'll just learn more about them. And the OSIRIS-REx mission, we're going to scoop up some asteroid, bring it back, and try to learn more about them, because it is the disaster that we can prevent, and it's worth preventing. And it's also interesting to note for me, when I was young, nobody had a good theory about what happened to the ancient dinosaurs. Well, they were stupid. Their brains were small. And so rats outcompeted them. What? Yes, mice. Mice were smarter than dinosaurs. Really? But now, of course, everybody loves the asteroid theory, and it's pretty good. That's what took out the ancient dinosaurs. We don't want that to happen to us. So I hope we catch up with an asteroid in the next 20 years, and I hope we'll say, can I say in the next 30 years, we send people to Mars. And if there was somebody with grandkids, maybe they would be the astronauts. Yes, yes, yes. Oh, here it is, yes. A woman in red. Oh, here.
I'm a 6th grade science teacher, and I personally think science is really cool, and so I'm trying to instill that in my students. How can we change society and think that science is cool everywhere? Like we think athletes are cool, musicians are cool.
How can we do that, Doug?
You're the science guy, I don't know.
Well, here's what I'll say. Science is cool, but it's not athletics. I mean, if there's analogies and people get all caught up in this, but we're not going to have... We need a lot more engineers than we need professional baseball players, for example. So, there's an analogy that science is cool. The big thing I tell people, don't you want to get rich? All the big corporations are run by engineers. And so, if you want to have a rewarding life, a creative life, you want to make things and solve problems, then grow up to be an engineer. And it's fun, but everybody does have to learn algebra. This is my new thing. Try to get on algebra. So.
Well, thank you for your service as a teacher. Are there other teachers that are...
Yes. You guys are touching the future.
I wanted to add on something Bill said about, we're expecting, and we are expecting to go to Mars 20, 25 years from now. We may be sitting here doing a tweet-up, watching people head off to Mars. And, usually our astronauts, when they're selected to fly in space, they're at mid-30s. And if we're really expecting that to happen, then that means those first people that we'll see walking on Mars are somewhere in our classrooms. They're probably a child somewhere between the ages of 5 and 18 that are going to be the first humans to step
You're going to let a 5-year-old go to Mars?
So anyway, that's what's very exciting about me, to me, about the future in the next 20 years, is that our teachers are really kind of molding and shaping our future explorers. Thank you.
I have a question for both of you from a first grader. Oh, thank you.
Thank you. I have a question for both of you from a first grader. What's the coolest thing you think there is in space? They said coolest.
Well, I guess when you face the black sky, it's fantastically cold, right? coolest thing for me is what we don't know. So I'm pretty confident there are living things somewhere out there. And this would address the question of whether or not we are alone. But in the medium term, I want to go to Mars and look for signs of water and life. You know, I should go to a Tweetup for... Wait! Here we are! This is the coolest thing, right now. This is it.
The coolest thing for me is exactly what we're doing today is exploring and venturing out. You know, I don't know who it was, Carl Sagan, that said that not only are we insignificant in the cosmos, we are undetectable. And when you think about the vastness of our solar system, our universe, and you look back on this little blue ball of life here, you know, it's an awe-inspiring task to really venture out to somewhere new. So that's the most exciting thing to me is we're just this little ball here, and
we are one of the universe's ways of knowing itself. And as I always say, you know, if we stop exploring, if instead of doing this today, you're doing something else, what does that say about you? You stop looking out, you stop trying to find out what's going on beyond the horizon. As you say, I mean, it says you don't care, you want to stay home. God, heck with that. That's not good. So how about another one? Yes.
So when you get a notice that something is headed, this more
An asteroid.
astro wheels, yes. When you notice that something's coming toward the ISS, you get a notice. How much time do you need before you can't do anything and you have to get in the Soyuz?
Okay. We have really great rocket scientists and orbital mechanics folks here on the Earth that track these things that are inbound, or maybe this might be a piece of space junk or something inbound that they know the trajectory. So we have a red, yellow, and green conjunction scenario. So they'll usually give us a warning about 24 hours out. It's like, hey, tomorrow this time, right now we're green, but we're expecting to switch to yellow. And
what's the thing that would be coming towards you? A piece of paint? An old wrench?
An old wrench. Maybe somebody had dropped a satellite, pieces of satellites and rocket parts and things. And so we do have conjunctions that turn into red, and we have to sequester into our Soyuz because that's our lifeboat on board. And in the 6 months I was there, we did that twice. We had a conjunction that was going to come pretty close, but you know, when you're traveling at 5 miles per second, which these other parts are traveling as well, if it comes within just a few dozen kilometers, that's a red. You know, so it's not a good day if it impacts you. Of course, we can change the attitude of the station. We can raise the orbit. We can change the attitude and maybe put a smaller profile toward that object, and we can sequester into the Soyuz as well. So it's and so you then you're kind of hoping for the big sky, little bullet kind of theory, you know, where you get real small in your Soyuz, and so if it impacted the station for whatever reason, you could park and come home. So.
I guess guy in black, SPAC, no space. Yeah.
Like if you're, I forgot my question really. Yeah, if you're on the space station and like there's, instead of something dangerous, something very cool is flying by, could you take the Soyuz and go for a spin and go investigate?
Like the shuttlecraft on Star Trek.
You probably could, but you'd be in trouble when you got home, probably. We actually repositioned our Soyuz, which is kind of a neat thing. We got there in just a couple weeks after we docked. We actually had a reposition to another docking port, and that was actually kind of cool.
Why did you have to do that?
To make way for the next Progress vehicle, resupply vehicle that was coming. And the Russians now have 2 docking ports, the Mean 1 and 2, that now are fully functional docking ports. And at the time we arrived, it wasn't fully outfitted, the one where we were supposed to dock to. So we arrived, we fixed that up, we got it all arranged so we could dock at that port now. And then we undocked, flew around the station, and redocked. We were only undocked for about 40 minutes or so. But it's a lot of fun, you know, actually going out for a little drive around the
And
neighborhood.
nobody said to you, "I'm sorry, Doug. I can't let you back in here."
They kept calling me Hal for some reason.
Guy in red. Doug, you got an astronaut taking coming out.
One of the projects we're working
A little
on,
close to your mouth.
one of the programs, the projects we're working on now that will permanently overcome the obstacles we have with getting men to Mars.
Well, here's what I want, people. Speaking of how, we need lighter and stronger materials, almost certainly derivative of carbon nanotubes. And I want somebody at some space agency someplace to make a spaceship that spins, for crying out loud. It's not clear. How long were you in space? 100 and something days.
Yeah, 6 months.
And you had to work out constantly, right?
Yes.
And it's hot and sweaty.
It's hot and sweaty.
Because there's no convection.
That's right.
They don't have any, or not any, serviceable gravity up there.
That's exactly right. What Bill is saying, with the one of the things we're trying to do with these long duration stays on the space station, we're actually replicating with the human body as well and our life support systems a trip to Mars. And so we stay now. Technically, we should stay there for 8 to 9 months, wherever it would take for us to get up there in a chemical rocket, get to Mars. But we replicate this as an analog to traveling to Mars. And so the things that happen to you physiologically are some of the major things that we're studying for sending humans to Mars. So when we get back, things are a little strange. You know, your balance system is a little...
How long did it take you to get your Earth-like back?
There are actually, I still have symptoms a year later of things that are with my readjustment to gravity. And the most powerful one for me is my vision. What I didn't realize, and one of the things we started realizing just in the last couple of years, we have exercise countermeasures on board the space station. So we have a cycloergometer that we can change the wattage and the resistance. We have a weight machine that looks like a universal gym that's isolated from the side of the space station. And we also have a treadmill that we pull down the bungees. And while we're doing this, when you get to space within the first just few weeks, your body starts to figure out that you really don't need your legs anymore. And so it starts pumping a lot of fluid to your upper extremities, including your intracranial pressure begins to increase. And as you are there for a couple of weeks, you diurese a lot of that. So you actually
Diurese.
You pee it.
Wink,
out.
wink.
Okay? Tweet that. So you pee this off, and so you're actually in a state in space. You're actually at the proper hydration. But if you were to come back to Earth, you're in a dehydrated state. So anyway, when we get on this treadmill or on this weight machine, we're actually trying to kind of condition our muscles and our skeletal structure, and we actually fool the brain a little bit to think. So the brain is like, okay, are we back in gravity? What are we doing here? And so it continues to pump this pressure to your head. And so I came back with, and this pressure, your intracranial pressure, actually pushes on the back of your eyes and actually flattens your retina. So it's like a diopter shift in your vision. You probably have read about this. It's sort of a new finding. And I was like number one in the chute. I came out of that Soyuz and like, hey, I can't see very well. Everything was, it's like taking the focus ring and just kind of a little bit out of focus. And that's still coming back, even after a year. And so there are lingering effects and these are things that we really need to solve. You know, if we're going to go on to Mars and we're going to send somebody to Mars, they're going to be on the planet away from here for maybe 3 years. You know, transit there, space lab there, and then back. And if we can't solve these things now, we're in a world hurt. So that's one of the major things we're doing on the station now.
I want something that spins. Doesn't have to be 1G. We'll find out how much it means.
And this would help with that. It really would help with that.
Not me going like this.
Not your finger.
Yeah, right.
Hey, Doug, this question's for you. As an astronaut, do you have a feel for how many astronauts out there would be willing to do a one-way mission to Mars? Is that something that would a lot of people sign up for?
You know, I've actually never been asked that question, but I ask that question to kids a lot, you know, because you have these people, especially these young scientists and young kids that want to be astronauts. I said, okay, who in this room would go to Mars? Okay, let's take a show of hands. If this rocket were going to Mars and say we're going to put a person on this, who in this room would go? Okay? Now, this doesn't have the equipment to bring you back safely. Now who would go? And you'd stay there. Okay.
They say that. Are there any pilots here? Yeah. How many of you take off not intending to land? I mean, there's a few. And if you really think about it, part of a complete job is getting back. Yeah. So, you know, it's not like, okay, let me put it this way. How many people can't wait to go live in Antarctica the rest of their lives? Cool. No, there's very few people. Yeah. It's cold, it's dry, and it's dark. But, and you know, if you go to Mars, I've been there, but it's very hard to breathe. And they don't have anything for us to breathe, and you would notice that right away. Your eye would go right to it. So
that's a very good question. It's one of the psychological things you have to. On top of that, even if you had a sort of a promised return, you're going to be gone away from this planet for 3 years as well, which still got some psychological effects, obviously. So these.
What was the one serious emotional effect? A
significant emotional event. Yeah.
You can't get back. Wow, you know, Houston, that's a significant emotional event. All right, that's cool. Here we're waving peoples. Woman in pink.
Thank you. Well, you two both know a lot about the space program, obviously.
He does.
When do you reckon we'll be doing a tweet up in space?
There are sort of already tweet-ups in space, considering we have more than one tweeting astronaut on the space station sometimes.
I was actually gonna, is Charlie Bolden still here? I was gonna ask him if he'd send me back to the station. I'll do a tweet up for you.
I'll go ahead. There you go. Yeah, so, what do you guys show? Hey, I got one too, and you're on the space station. Hey, let's go tweet. Yes, that would be, yes, let's see, it's $200,000 a ride right now to not get on orbit. So, maybe in 20 years there'll be enough space tourism. You asked about 20 years, I think it's a little more than that. But the longest journey starts with a single step. So we'll see. It'll be a while, but spiritually it'll be very soon, or curiosity will be very soon.
Okay, so I wanted to know, how much radiation do you get on a space station versus what you would get going here to Mars?
Well, Bill will be able to answer the here to Mars. You do get, we still are within in low Earth orbit, where the space station is. We're still pretty well inside the Van Allen belt, protective belts of the Earth. So we do get an increased dose of radiation. And I've been told it's similar to someone that works in a nuclear facility, sort of that type of. There isn't a higher dose when you're outside of the spacewalk as well, because you don't have some of that protection. But you leave these protective belts around the Earth, and it's a different story. So, Bill, can you address that?
Well, that was one of the big things with the living interplanetary flight experiment, which is stuck in Earth orbit. Was everybody's pretty sure these microbes will have no trouble with the cold, and very little trouble with zero gravity. But the radiation is the big question. So it's hundreds, thousands of times the radiation you get in your lifetime over 3 years. And everybody wondered what would happen. I mean, people speculate on building spacecraft that are surrounded by a big jacket of water, which is very well suited to soaking up radiation. Using conventional lead or steel shielding or concrete shielding is probably not the best thing for a spaceship because they're heavy. And it could be that there's people that speculate on their drugs that you may be able to take that would wash the damaged cells out of your body. But we'll see. That's why we want to run these kooky tests with these microbes. So if anybody knows how to get hold of the Phobos grunt mission, it's only overhead for about 7 minutes at a time. Let us know. That's a great question. It's unknown. It's unknown. Man in hat, man in hat.
Okay, as far as going up to orbit, Soyuz and Space Shuttle, love, hate.
Which one do you want, Soyuz or Space Shuttle?
Okay. All right.
Remember, you're on camera all the time.
Okay, promise you guys won't tweet this, okay?
Oh yeah, they promise. Oh, I did it by accident. Oh yeah.
Well, I had back in 2007, I launched on the Space Shuttle Discovery, actually, from out here at Peak. And then last year I launched on the Russian rocket, a Soyuz. And they're very different. And
that's politics. That's very different. They're different.
Very different. Now, the shuttle, especially in first stage, because those boosters are solid fuel, and solid rocket fuel burns much differently than liquid fuel. And a Soyuz rocket is kerosene, so it's a liquid fuel, so it absorbs a lot of the vibration. In first stage on this space shuttle, I was alarmed at the vibration in first stage. It's amazing. That pounding of your chest is exactly what it's doing to you on board as well. And in first stage, we all wear these, fancy keyboards and everything, like we're going to write something. And your pen's kind of like this, and just really, really shaking and very violent. The other thing that I noticed on the space shuttles, the axis of rotation. Within the first 8 or 9 seconds when the space shuttle comes off the pad, it leans on its back. It does a roll program, it's called. And it actually, for 2 reasons, we have communication antennas on the top of the shuttle, so we kind of roll on its back so we can communicate with ground sites up the East Coast and Bermuda and all the way into orbit. And until we do a roll the heads up, and then we can talk through the satellites. But we also create a negative angle of attack because the shuttle, it is like a cinder block with little stubby wings. It still has wings, and it wants to, when there's air flowing over it, it wants to fly off of the stack, and so it creates a negative angle of attack and kind of holds it against the stack as well. Well, when that roll on TV, or when you look at it out here, it looks like a nice smooth roll, but you're actually sitting about 20 to 25 feet moment arm from where that roll axis is, and so when that roll program kicks in, you can feel the engine's gimbal, and then you swing around like you're on the end of a merry-go-round. And so that ride to orbit is pretty rough. Now in the Soyuz, it's very, very smooth. You see these guys on TV, and they're in there, exchanging recipes or whatever, and it's very, very calm. Now, coming home, it's the other way around. Coming home in the shuttle, very smooth, a little bit of lateral vibration, but other than that, it was really, really smooth coming back. The Soyuz is like riding in a barrel over Niagara Falls that's been set on fire. So.